to pit class orientation. Thank you all for coming. So the reason that we have this orientation is because next week when you get here, there's going to be shelter dogs and foster dogs here. So it's going to look a little bit more chaotic. And so with people scrambling around, we want to make sure that you guys are comfortable and you know what to do, okay? Please arrive right at 10 o'clock. Arrive no earlier than 10 o'clock. If you can do 10:15, that's even better. The class starts at 10:30, but we have a reactive dog class happening here just before that, and it wouldn't be good for that class to see your dogs because they're working on not kind of barking and lunging at other dogs. You will always park up in that lot. There will be cones across there, and you're going to stay at your car until someone with Handsome Dan's Rescue gear comes to you and checks your dog the first week. They're going to check that your dog's equipment is on properly. So keep them in the car and yell out that you need equipment check, and one of us will come over and check your equipment. And then you will be asked to come down and join the circle. You always want to keep the dogs moving beforehand, so if you get here and you take your dog out of the car, make sure you keep them moving so that they're not going to kind of stare at each other, potentially set each other off. All right, equipment and supplies. If your dog is not a puppy, which seems we have 3 puppies this time, puppy meaning 6 months and over for this class, don't feed your dog breakfast. If your dog is the 3 dogs that are puppies, feed them half of their breakfast the mornings of class. So for equipment, you can get a treat pouch. This is a treat pouch. You don't necessarily need one though. I like this brand. It's $15 on Amazon, and they're spring loaded, so that makes it kind of fun and easy to get them out. You can, if you are a climber, you can use a climbing chalk bag. You can use a Ziploc bag and bind or clip it. We just ask that you have some sort of container because volunteers will be walking around asking for treats to help with the training to treat your dog. They also should remember to ask if your dog has any food allergies, but if they forget to ask and they go to use their own treats, make sure, speak up if you want them only to use the treats that you've provided. You need a bed or a blanket. This should not be their cushy, fancy LL Bean bed from at home. This should be something small, comfortable for them to lay on, mostly to keep them kind of off of the dark asphalt. It can be a towel, it can be a cheap fleece blanket, anything like that. I ask that you don't wash the blanket unless you absolutely have to, so it smells like your dog. Because the first exercise we do every week is called Circle and Sniff, and that is an exercise where we walk counterclockwise around in a circle, and each dog sniffs the next dog's blanket. It's a way for the dogs to familiarize themselves with each other without actually meeting, because the dogs will never meet at class. They'll never come within 10 feet of each other at class. So this is a very small version of what the oval will look like, but it will take up this whole parking lot. So each dog's name will be written on the cone. When you are released from somebody tells you, a volunteer tells you, or I tell you to bring your dog down, you'll bring your dog down here with your supplies, and you'll set your supplies up right at your cone, right behind your cone. So everything will be there, your dog, you'll watch other people coming in, everybody kind of stays there with their dog till everybody's brought in. Sometimes we bring the shelter dogs in first, and we bring dogs in different orders each week, so don't get discouraged if you're last. If you arrive here and Circle and Sniff has already started, which looks like this, which all of the dogs are walking around to the next blanket, you cannot join. Please don't ask one of the volunteers if you can join if you're late and that's already started, because it just puts them in an uncomfortable situation, because they're going to come ask me and the answer is still going to be no. And the reason why is because this Circle and Sniff really helps the dogs to feel calm and smell what the other dogs around them smell like, get to know them, see what they had for breakfast. Always 10 feet between dogs. So the dogs should never, ever, ever come within 10 feet of each other. This is especially important for our shelter dogs. Also because getting a class of potentially unowned pit bulls insured is very difficult to do. So that's one of the things that we are not insured for. If you are at class and you're absolutely sure that two dogs need to meet because they're going to be best friends, you wait till all of the volunteer cars are out of the parking lot and do what you wish. Do not have the dogs meet while we are here, as again, we are not insured for it. Any questions with that? Super important. Okay. Equipment. So you need you need two forms of equipment at all times. So generally most dogs have a collar. Does everybody's dog here wear a collar or own one? Okay. We really like martingale collars. Ashley, do you want to come demonstrate?
I was like, this is our time to shine.
Your time to shine! This is Bree. She's a volunteer with her demo dog, Ashley, who we use a lot here at the rescue. So this is a martingale collar. This is definitely what we recommend.
It doesn't have a D-ring on it.
It's a collar that goes around like this but has this kind of extra area. Definitely not necessary. Don't go out and buy one if you don't already have one. It's fine. Ashley happens to be wearing a head halter. Your dog doesn't need to be. We're going to go around to each person and find out what equipment they're using and then make suggestions, because there needs to be two forms of equipment. So what equipment are you guys using right now to walk your dog?
Leash.
A leash and a collar?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll need two forms of equipment. Does your dog pull on leash? Not too much? Okay, so you can just use any old collar that you might have at home, and you can connect it with a carabiner. And
So it has to be the two, which is thing is the collar.
Sam, can you pass out carabiners to
So
everybody?
the collar and the harness have to be connected by something too. So that's what the carabiner is. Just to clarify.
Yeah, it's just, and we're gonna pass them out. It's just connecting the two forms of equipment, because they need to be two forms of equipment, just in case of equipment failure, to keep everyone safe. Okay, what form of equipment are you using for Sesame?
He's got his harness and his collar.
Okay, so he's using a Freedom harness, which is this, which we highly recommend. It has two leashes on it. You can decide what a double clip leash. You can clip it here, or you can clip it here, or you can clip them both here. We love these here at the rescue. They also have velvet underneath, so it helps with chafing. You want these to fit tight enough that they move with the skin rather than on top of the skin to try to not have chafing.
And the handle.
And the handle slides too. These are about $40, so they're a little more expensive than a lot of supplies, but we like them. So here is another showing of a Freedom harness connected with a carabiner to a collar. Okay.
It doesn't have a D-ring, I know.
Okay, so what are you using at this time?
Easy walk and a collar.
Okay, so you'll use your carabiner. Okay, and you'll be fine.
I've got a harness typically, and I have a martingale, which is
So put on the green harness. You don't have to have a martingale unless you want to.
Okay.
And then you need the carabiner. If the carabiner that you were given is too small, I believe that there might be some smaller, too large. I believe there might, can you take a look and see if there are any smaller ones in here?
Smaller what?
Carabiners.
And sorry, so I've got the harness, and I'm putting on.
And you're connecting it to the collar with a carabiner.
Got it.
Yep. What are you using for equipment?
Easy Walk and Martingale.
Perfect. So you're,
Who needs the smaller one?
I think I might.
The Freedom harness, should we wait till we go over? It's only 7 months.
you need to, I would.
Still
You can also borrow, we have all the supplies to borrow, especially the ones that I recommend. We have them, so you know it's nice to be able to borrow them before you buy them to make sure they're going to work. So he probably, you could borrow a Freedom harness for 1 week and see how you like it, and also kind of see for sizing what you might need.
3 harnesses. We're in the
Okay.
3rd one now.
Okay. So you could just ask one of the volunteers to just say Heather said we could borrow a size whatever Freedom harness, and they'll help you put it on and fit it for the class. Yep.
Talking about waist leashes?
Yep. We're talking about Freedom.
Okay.
What are you using?
Easy walk and martingale.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
same kind of deal for you, and you understand how to connect the D-ring to the D-ring.
Yeah.
Okay. 4-foot leash. I always say no good can happen from those extra 2 feet. If you don't have a 4-foot leash and you don't want to buy one, feel free to tie some knots in it for the class. Okay? Must be 4 feet to get out of the car. They won't let you out of the car. We do sometimes have extra supplies in my car, but we try to do the 4-foot leash. I'm going to show some other supplies that we use. We do use head halters. There's several different brands, and we can go over those if we feel like you might want to consider them for your dog.
This is 4 feet as well. So that's
Yeah, an extra 4-foot leash. Yeah. Ashley only has 3 forms of equipment on because she was in helping out at reactive class earlier. So you don't need 3 for this class, you just need the 2. Okay. All right, what else? Carabiner. Water. You can bring water for your dog. This is very important for the owned dogs. Bring it in a container with a lid because dogs are going to be walking around to each blanket. You probably don't want a shelter dog drinking out of the same water container. Even the best of shelters can get Giardia and Coccidia in the shelter, so they can pick that up. So make sure there's a lid on it, or when the circle and stiff starts and we're walking around, maybe put it way off to the side. Also, unfortunately, sometimes a dog will mark another dog's bed, meaning pee on it. So another reason not to bring something that's super nice. If that happens, please just let us know. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It happens a lot, just so that the owner knows to kind of not use that blanket and take it home and wash it. Coat or thunder shirt is fine. A cooling shirt is also fine if your dog needs a cooling jacket or anything like that. If you have questions about that, you can ask us as the class goes on. So policies and procedures. Dogs are never within 10 feet of each other. I'm just going to say it again. Always have 2 hands on the leash, okay? So always have 2 hands on the leash. If we can't get you to have 2 hands on the leash, you'll be forced to wear a waist leash so that you have, there's 2 points, you know, the dog's connected to you at 2 points, here and the hand. A lot of times it's hard for people to remember that. Or you can be like Samantha and just choose to use a waist leash because
They're super easy, way more convenient.
It's easier to treat when you have the waist leash too. So if I have 2 hands on, I'm treating like this. Whereas if I have the waist leash, I can treat like this.
So those are fun. And an easy way to do that is you can just have any old belt that you have at home and take a 4-foot leash. Where was that 4-foot leash? Yeah. You can take a 4-foot leash, put it through your belt or your treat pouch or whatever, and clip that to the dog, okay? So if you want to use a waist leash that way. Also, if you're not sure and you'd want to try something out like this, we always have extras that you can borrow.
They will give you one. If you can't keep 2 hands on the leash, they will just give you one. So we use for the class.
So so because we always have to have 2 hands on the leash. 2 hands. So I demonstrated circle and sniff. We always walk counterclockwise. At the beginning, there will be volunteers placed in between the dogs. So you're counterclockwise. So Ashley would be walking around like this. She stops. She sniffs this bed. I say go. She moves to the next bed. We're going very slow. She sniffs for a little while. I say go. We move to the next bed. If a dog is not moving, if your dog has stopped and is using the bathroom, if something has happened and you think your dogs are going to come within 10 feet of each other, you yell stop. Anyone can yell stop at any moment. It will happen. Every time we do it, somebody yells stop with circle and sniff because either a dog's pulling this way or a dog got, distracted and wants to go smell this leaf. If you hear stop, it does not mean go back to your bed. It means stop and stand directly where you are and wait for a volunteer to say go. And then you'll just resume walking to the next bed. Are there any questions with that? Okay. Great. Try not to talk to your neighbor. Try to pay close attention to your dog. If your dog does bark or lunge at another dog, which happens sometimes, you simply need to reset them. And what that means is you need to walk away from your cone till your dog can calm down enough to give you any command. It could be a sit, reward, bring them on back, okay? If it happens again, you do it again. Some people are resetting their dogs the whole time the first class, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean anything. Please don't discipline your dogs for doing that. There's a reason that they're communicating in the way that they are. but that's what we're gonna do to kind of reset them. You also may notice that the dog across from you may need to be reset as well, because maybe they were staring at each other and it became a little uncomfortable. And volunteers may see something and ask you to reset your dog. It may just be some body language that they're not sure about. Don't take it personally. You probably will all be asked to reset at some point. That reactivity is contagious. So occasionally what will happen is that everyone will react, or the majority of them. And we might say everyone reset, and everyone should go out, wait till they can kind of get that command and come back. Some of the more shy dogs, or if we have any fearful guys, it may take a little bit for them to get out and get back. And that's fine. We go at the dog's pace. No big deal. Let's see. Inclement weather. We do not cancel class. And the reason why we don't cancel class is because if you were to ask a shelter dog if it still wants to come to class even though it's snowing or raining, they're going to say yes. Okay, so you don't have to come, but we don't really repeat stuff. So the only time we would cancel is if there's like a heat advisory, or if, like, you know, in the wintertime we're not allowed to drive on the roads. And if that happens, we'll push the class out a week. Okay? Now, that's not going to be listed on Handsome Dan's Facebook page. People always think it will, but the last time I tried to do that, years and years ago, people from like Nevada were like, what class is canceled? I would put it on my Outbound Hounds Facebook page. If you are not sure if it's canceled or not, feel free to text me. You should have your phone number now. Please never, ever, ever, for any circumstances, give my phone number out to anyone, even if it's a referral. Thank you for referrals, but send them to my website. Okay? Let me know if you're not coming to class so we're not waiting. And please promote our adoptables. I wrote this curriculum a million years ago as a way to get shelter dogs with behavioral issues a little more under control, a little more adoptable, I guess, or dogs that might be seen as, oh, if it's well trained but it has this issue, you know, I might be more willing to take it on. So that was the primary goal. So those dogs are the primary. Those dogs have to come first. So please promote them, get to know them. At the end of the class, if someone looks interesting to you, put your dog in the car with the air conditioning, maybe come back over. Say to one of us, hey, want to get a picture of me with this dog so we can post it on Facebook, or maybe you want to post it on one of your social medias, or send it to your friend or your coworker that might be looking for another dog. We really appreciate it when you can help to promote our adoptables, because we work with some of the dogs in this state that are struggling the most, have been in the shelters the longest, some of those that are the least likely candidates for adoption for behavioral or medical reasons. Okay. All right, need to hurry up here. So who here has a marker word? We're going to use marking. This is going to be a marker training class. So there's several different ways to train, but this one's going to be marking. So marking is when you catch a behavior the moment that it happens, and it's basically a word or a click. It's a promise, a bridge. Before, it's a promise that food is on the way. You just did the right thing, food's on the way. Because us humans are super slow, right? So by the time the dog sits and you find your treat, they've moved on to the next thing. So, Ashley, please come back. Who has a marker word, and what is it?
I say good. And
Good.
he knows, he sits right there.
Perfect. Good is what you do right after the behavior has been performed.
90% of the time, if he's distracted, he won't do it.
Okay, so here's how we would use a marker word. Sit. Good, yes. Hers happens to be good, yes. I don't recommend two words. Oh, it's yes, good. So I'm going to show it again. Sit. Yes, good. Okay? So you use it directly after they perform the behavior. What is your marker?
Good.
What is your marker?
Me, yes.
Yes. Does anybody else have a marker?
I have a 2-word marker. I always say good girl.
Okay. Let's try to do good or girl. And the marker word needs to be something that, it's not like, how are you? I'm good. It's good. Like a sharp word. Good, yes, or the word click is commonly what's used, but you can use any word. If you would like to try out a clicker, I'm gonna pass some out. Actually, Sam is gonna pass some out just to see what it's like, and so that we can practice marking behavior. Okay, so we're gonna pass a few clickers out. So I'm going to show you very quickly how we're going to do this with Ashley. We're going to do the same thing that I just did, right? At the beginning, your dog will always get a treat after they perform the behavior. So I'm going to show you once, then we're all going to do it together once you have a clicker. Ashley.
Thank you.
Ashley, sit. The pavement's hot. Here, I'll do touch. Ashley, touch. That was awful. I'm going to do that again. She's very hot. And she's been here through 2 classes already. Ashley, touch. So that's using the clicker rather than a word. Okay? Do you need more clickers? Right, and she's the clicker's not our marker word. But so as humans, we tend to predict. Okay? So I'm going to do a little exercise with you first. I want you to click the moment this reaches midair. Okay? Try it again. Try it again. Okay. It's hard, right? Because you're predicting. As humans, we predict. You're predicting when you think it's going to reach midair. Earlier in my career, I taught a dog to squat because I was predicting rather than to sit. I would click when the dog was here, right? So the dog learned this is sit, not that, right? So make sure that we're not predicting that time. Let's do it again. See how they're getting closer and closer? Everyone's click is getting closer and closer because you're learning not to predict. Ready? Good. You guys got it. All right, now let's do it with Ashley.
You got this.
Maybe we shouldn't do it with Ashley.
She's coming.
Why don't we do it on the grass?
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a better.
Okay.
Go, Ashley, go. You got this. She's like, got it. She's like, no.
Ashley may have had too much. You want to see? Okay, as soon as that butt hits the ground, I want to hear your click. Ashley, sit. Okay. The moment it hit the ground, you click and give the treat, okay? Now, you don't need to click. I'm just using this as a marker, okay? So, if some people choose clickers, some people use words. I just wanted to hear your timing, okay? So if you'd like to use a clicker, you're welcome to. Otherwise, Sam is going to come around and collect the clickers. Did you, Sam?
What?
Sam is going to come around and collect the clickers if you don't want to use one. If you'd like to use one, you're welcome to have it. If your clicker doesn't work, we'll replace it. Sometimes those box clickers wear out or they just don't work at the beginning. Wherever. Okay, so you're going to charge your marker this week. Even if your dog already knows good girl, you're going to charge your marker. And that means you're going to put a bowl of treats on the kitchen counter. I mean up high, super high.
He finds everything up.
You're going to put the treats in a safe. Change the lock every day. So you've got your treats. And I want you, and when your dog is just kind of standing there, or you walk in the kitchen to get a drink, you're just going to say the marker word and directly hand the treat. There's no criteria. You just say them. They don't have to do anything. Nope, they do nothing. Treat. Say the word, hand them a treat. Say the word, hand them a treat. 10 to 15 times, 3 times a day. You'll know you have it if you walk into an empty room and say the marker word and you hear because they're running to get the treat, okay? And that's part of your homework for next week is to charge your marker. Questions?
I have a dog that's not food motivated.
Okay, so you're going to be using a toy. And you're going to be doing the same thing with a toy. And it's probably that tug toy for Astrid, tugging, right?
Yeah, anything she can shred.
Okay. So you're going to be doing the same thing, but a very short interval of that. Yep. That is a good question. All right. There are 4 quadrants of operant conditioning. You've probably heard about positive reinforcement. So there's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. This class we use positive reinforcement generally, but we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. What we don't use is positive punishment. That's the one that we don't like. Adding of a punisher. Positive doesn't mean good or bad, it means the addition of, okay? So typically what we will be doing is positive reinforcement, which is what we were demonstrating with Ashley. But we may do, you know, other things, like if a dog jumps up on you, I may have told you to turn your back, right? So that's the removal of attention, or there may be some sort of other consequence that doesn't give the dog the motivation that they were after with that behavior. Or if we're trying to extinguish behavior, we may you know, ignore it, or, you know, and we'll go over that stuff in more detail. I just wanted you to know when people talk about positive reinforcement classes and positive reinforcement training, that it may mean that they don't use the quadrant of positive punishment. It's probably more likely, you know, what that means. But we follow a humane hierarchy, a Lima scale, where we always start with positive reinforcement first. And in this class, this is a basics class, that's going to get the job done. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. Okay, luring, shaping, and capturing. Luring is when you lure a dog into position using a treat. We'll be doing that. Shaping is when you're marking a behavior that's getting close to the behavior you want. Like if you want to sit, you might mark and reward this. Then you might mark and reward this. Then you might mark and reward that. So that's more shaping. And capturing is if like you're having difficulty getting the dog to lay down, but every time the dog lays down, you mark and reward. Once he gets it, add the verbal prompt, and he'll start to learn down. So we use all three of those forms of training. I think I have everyone's form, vaccination, record, photo and video waiver you will have given out to you next week. And we will start next week with, at my side, the heel position, which I've given you a handout on. Okay. You're going to decide what side your dog heels on, because we're going to be teaching that starting the first week. So pick a side and stick to it this week. I want you to mark and reward every time your dog checks in with you on a walk. Every time they look at you, give you any sort of attention like that. We're going to hold the leash like this. I'm just going to clip it to anything. One hand through, then like this, and the other hand here. So this is how we're going to be holding the leash for now. Does everybody understand that? One hand through. Grab this side, like this. Okay. You're always going to have treats with you on the walk, so you can mark and reward those check-ins. I'll ask that you, Matthew has 500 leashes on. I'll ask that you take treats on the walk, so that you can be really reinforcing, you know, what you like to see. You know, when you see them at having a loose leash, mark and reward that. That's great. You know, we tend to forget about the good stuff and try working on training the bad stuff. But if everything we reinforce will strengthen the behavior. So I'm not going to get too much into heel position at this time. I think because of the size of this class this time, I think we're going to do it. We're going to start it next week. The movement of getting them into that position. But you do have the handout, so you're welcome to start some of the first steps at home. Do you have any questions on that? There's 18 steps, so it's a lot. The biggest part of heel is getting them to know to get themselves there. It's get themselves there, no matter what.
You do come front.
What?
You know how you do the come front?
I do come front.
Okay, so
I do a command called come
does it.
front.
This one, he'll come and he'll sit in front of you, but he doesn't answer to come front. So if I say come front to Tasha, he comes.
So come front right in front of you, and lower it up into a sit.
Okay.
And then the moment the butt hits the ground, mark and reward. And we'll talk about come front, and it's in here. We start with a come front command with heel, but we very quickly discontinue it, just to get the dog to come here before we lower them back into the heel position.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that next week. And you can look at the handouts. Who has questions?
I know. I'm not going to make
Heather,
Yes.
did you mention red cones? Do we have?
Oh yeah, thank you, Sam. There will be dogs that, your cone will be orange. It will have your dog's name on it. Some dogs will have their orange cone. This is Tennessee from another class, but they will have some red cones around them. Do not approach this dog for any reason. It means it's working on something very specific, okay? Only some volunteers will even be approaching that dog, and only I will be approaching, and maybe I won't even be approaching that dog the first time. Red cones, and some of these dogs may have red cones at the beginning, right? Depending on what we see the first week. So red cones means stay away. It doesn't mean it's a good dog, bad dog. It just means it's working on something, okay? All right, you'll see the dog's working sign. Again, you're gonna park up there. Ladies, did I leave anything out?
That's it.
Ask for equipment checks when you get here.
Bring more treats than you think you need.
Bring way more treats than you think you need. Small, soft training treats. Things like hot dogs, string cheese. You can take a hot dog and cut it this way, then this way, and slice it up. Those work great. Very small training treats. Bring more than you think you need, because you'll need a lot of them. Usually at class, at least for the first few weeks, the commercially prepared stuff won't get the job done. But you can bring it if you want. Shredded chicken also works. If and when you run out of food, treats, there's always treats in the back of my car. Feel free to grab a bag, replace it with any type brand for next week, as long as it's soft and strong smelling. And I think that's it. Okay, I'm really excited to have you guys. It's going to be a big class, but that always happens in the summer. Again, when you get here, if you have a dog, if your dog is in the car, which obviously it will be, and the other class is still going on, that's your cue to go away, right? Or get far as you can in the parking lot from the upper lot. And then the cars will never come down to this lot unless it's my car. Okay?
Stay in your car.
Yep, and stay in your car till a volunteer does an equipment check.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, that's it. We'll see you next week.
I have a non-class
Okay.
question.